according to Henderson, the Henderson reports, the uprising started from the Bazaris. Then people of other classes joined. The demonstrations started from Bazaris. Not to mention, there were also anti-Mossadegh coalition in other states. And what's even funny is they talk about, Kermit Roosevelt played a role. First of all, Kermit Roosevelt couldn't even be anywhere to bribe everyone. He was only in Tehran, because, and like I said, there were things everywhere. There were like anti-Mossadegh protesters everywhere, in Azerbaijan, in Kermanshah, my birth state, in Baluchistan, in even in Khuzestan. Almost everywhere there was anti-Mossadegh protests. I mean, like the CIA was not even only Kermit Roosevelt was only in Tehran. How could he be involved in that? Not to mention Kermit Roosevelt in his own memory book, even though he tried to sort of exaggerate the role, he still said he was not aware that there were also anti-Mossadegh protests in different countries. I read his Kermit Roosevelt's memory book, Counter Coup, in Farsi, by the way, and he said he was not aware of the fact that there were anti-Mossadegh protests in specifically Azerbaijan. And even if I was aware of it, he actually was not. How could I say this? He actually was not alerted that what the radio was saying.
That's crazy. When in Germany, outside of Iran, since you've been there, what do people say that are against the Shah or against the United States helping out against this regime? When you tell them that the current IRGC have a centralization of power, there's little to no opportunity to own your own business for upward mobility. It's basically a communist state with Nazi-like thug tactics that police everything, and it's brutal. What do they say? Like, do they have any counter argument, or do they just tell you that you don't know what you're talking about? You're just a liar. Do they have anything to say?
They always say it's a Zionist propaganda, or they are basically use the same old Crown Prince is a puppet of the of Israelis, or he's a puppet of Americans whatsoever. If he was puppet of Americans and Israelis, then why would Crown Prince oppose any separation of Iran then? Which, by the way, Israel and America took back their separation agenda. That is a question that a lot of people didn't answer.
Yeah, he said he doesn't want Iran to be part of Israel. He never said that, and that's never been a part of his rhetoric. The crazy part to me would be how these people could think that over 60 million Iranians, I don't know the exact number, but I know it's almost all of them. Almost all of them are pro-Shah. So does that mean that 60 million people are idiots and that they're all eating up Zionist propaganda? Or do you have an answer to that? They don't have an answer to any of this stuff.
Yeah, no, they don't. The thing is, they don't say they're idiots. They say, "Oh, that doesn't exist. That's bullshit. That's propaganda. Nobody supports the monarchy. Only minority of people of Iran support monarchy." Or they say only Iranian diaspora support the monarchy.
So that means everyone in the diaspora is an idiot. Yeah. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Wow. You guys are so smart. That's 600,000 people in Los Angeles, 350,000 in Toronto, Houston, Dallas, London. These people are all idiots, right? They have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, and I would also love to add up some things about the August 19th, 1953. Now,
Please.
a lot of people, I spoke about Kermit Roosevelt's over exaggeration in his book called Counter Coup, right?
Yes.
I also what's even funnier is that the reason why Kermit Roosevelt, alongside some of the CIA officials, including Scott A. Koch, over exaggerated the role in in overthrow of Mossadegh is because of the fact that they were. There were other reasons, but the main reason why they were trying to over exaggerate that and use it as a propaganda tool, or I don't know how to call it, for promotion, is to cover up their terrible loss against Cuba in Operation Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, when Kennedy didn't use the air support and they lost.
Oh yeah, Kennedy was not even aware, but he became aware later.
Yeah, but it was a failure because it was their chance to overthrow Fidel Castro at the very beginning when they still had the machinery to launch a rebel invasion and get him out of government. And they just failed
Yeah,
completely. But I
yeah,
also
it's
heard that a reason why they published that exaggeration of their involvement in with Mossadegh was also because the guy that Cameron wanted to have his 15 seconds of fame and put out a book and try to make some money. Do you think that has anything to do with it as well?
Yeah, that's also true. You know, I was also about to mention that too. Not to mention that they talk about Madeleine Albright's apology or Clinton's apology. You know, but they don't talk about why they did it. You know, the reason why Madeleine Albright apologized is because of the fact that the IRGC lobbyists like Hushang Amir Ahmadi, who I fucking hate who I fucking hate so much, because he nowadays he's a Nazi. Now he's a one of those guys who said, "Oh, I want a national socialism type of government," you know, like the Austrian painter type of government, you know. Even though he's still repeating the same old regimist propaganda, uh, Hushang Al Ahmadi convinced Albright to, you know, apologize. In order to have diplomatic relations, you have to apologize to the Iranian people for basically playing a role in the 1953. You know, and Albright did just that. Like they wanted to have a diplomatic relations. Albright accepted the diplomatic relations under those conditions, and he apologized. And basically, and what's even ironic is that Hushang Amir Ahmadi went to Khamenei and said, "Hey, sir, we would love to give the positive answer, you know." And Khamenei said, "Don't involve yourself. We need to keep our rivalry going, you know." Like they tried to use their rivalry as a distraction for diplomatic relations, you know.
What's craziest to me is how I don't know, dumb and short-sighted the West were before Khomeini took over. When he was living in that village in France, and the French government thought we're harboring and protecting a holy man, a man of light, a man of spiritual candor, and many letters, and he was just some bum, donkey-loving, fanatical terrorist. And he arrives in that plane with the little French pilot and the suit, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, we're bringing back a Gandhi, a Mother Teresa back to this land," and it's just to me it's just so baffling. It's so monkey brained.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. Like the funny thing is, they didn't even read his Velayat Fari book. You know, even some of the former 1979 revolutionists came forward. Like for example, Siabashi Kasrai came forward and said, after reading Velayat Fari, I know what democracy meant, and he basically told one of his fellow former communist friends to that, you know, these motherfuckers lied to us, you know. That's according to his own words, you know.
Well, I've spoken on this other podcasts that we've had before, other episodes that we've had. Is the problem is that people don't read. So if you don't read and you only see like 15 seconds of something and you take your conclusion from that, we have no idea what history is and what you have in front of you. So if no one actually wrote what Khomeini published when he was living in France, you're stupid. You just see a man in these robes and you automatically assume, oh, he's like a priest, he's like a cardinal. That means he's a man of no sin. But really, he's just another communist
Yeah, the thing
masquerading
is,
as a religious leader.
yeah, the thing is, they don't even read not only just Khomeini or Khamenei, but also this Mossadegh guy. Like I said, he had they didn't even read his memory book or letters, bro. Like
Yeah.
they're in Farsi, yes, but if you read these, you will understand that the Mossadegh was everything people accused the Shah of.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
corrupt bureaucrat that wanted to expropriate Iranian resources for himself and install himself as the ultimate head of power.
yeah, and not to mention he had history of working with greater powers, especially Britain.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the 20th century, the Britain had some pretty corrupt things where they just wanted to extract resources from different places, and that was what they were accusing the Shah of when he wasn't really for that. The Shah wanted everything in Iran to be for Iran.
Yeah, exactly, and not to mention when Reza Shah also burned the Darcy Treaty and threw it in trash. Like he threw it in fire. He burned it basically, and he basically dissolved the Darcy Treaty. If you don't know, before I explain, the Darcy Treaty was an oil treaty where only 60% of the oil profits were going to the Iranians, and the rest goes to British. That was during the Qajar times. But when Reza Shah came to power, he basically dissolved the Darcy Treaty and threw it in fire and replaced it with a new treaty on the condition that he trained the Brits Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, which was under the British recession. Train Iranian workers. He was basically Reza Shah was basically trying to nationalize the Iranian oil in 1930s. In 1930s, Reza Shah, not Mohammad Reza Shah.
It's very smart because before you have to rely on the Britain's infrastructure, their machinery, and their workers because they know how to do it. But if you can teach your own people how to do it, then you can get rid of Britain.
Yeah, exactly. That was actually smart from Reza Shah. Not to mention that he even increased the profit by 20%. Like it was 16, he went from 16 to 36%. And not to mention that Reza Shah actually went out of his way and tried to increase the oil price year after year, which resulted in his own downfall in Anglo-Soviet invasion.
He did too well for himself.
He got rid of the Darcy Treaty and replaced it. Wanted to increase the oil price, but that resulted in his own downfall. However, Mohammad Reza Shah took over, did some reforms, made white revolution happen, and basically went out of his way and through Iran, basically went nationalized Iranian oil technically in 1970s. And got rid of all the British and Soviet or American influence. But what's even funnier is that a lot of people love to say they were puppets. Listen, he may not be that much of a deaf to America type of guy or that charismatic. However, he was actually anti-Western imperialist. Like, he didn't completely hated America or England or any other superpowers. However, he was, if you go through his actions, if you go through his actions, you will see that he was a lot more anti-Western imperialistic than any other modern leaders, And I'm not saying this to say, oh, I hate the West. No. I'm just stating the historical facts. Like, a puppet wouldn't put fear in the hearts of Ironside and Norman and Cousin whatsoever before the 1921 coup d'etat. A puppet wouldn't go out of his way and kick out all the British police after the 1921 coup d'etat. A puppet wouldn't go out of his way and forced Ahmad Shah and Sayed Zia to become the Minister of War and kick out Sayed Zia, who was, by the way, an Anglophilic prime minister, kick Sayed Zia out of the country. A puppet wouldn't get rid of the Western and Eastern-backed Khans, this Western and Eastern-backed separatists. A puppet wouldn't get rid of the Darcy Treaty and put it in the ashes, burn it in the ashes. A puppet wouldn't try to increase the oil prices 20% years after year after year. A puppet wouldn't go out of his way and work with the Germans and go as far as making a coup happen before the 1921 coup d'etat, backed by Germans to get rid of the Russian and British influence. A puppet wouldn't go out of his way and get rid of the capitulation as well. A puppet wouldn't go out of his way and say no to cooperating with the West on Operation TP Ajax, even if that meant losing his throne. A puppet wouldn't create white revolution, which led the CIA to make a coup against him, or going as far as terrorize him, in the words of Abbas Milani. A puppet wouldn't nationalize the Iranian oil in 1970s. A puppet wouldn't do any of that, if I want to be honest with you. Not even like if you read the history, let's not forget about the fact that a puppet wouldn't go against France when the France was basically disrespecting Iranians. Let's not forget that as well. I almost forgot that. Like, during Reza Shah times, they were completely disrespecting the French were disrespecting the Iranians, and Reza Shah said, I'm going to cut off these diplomatic relations with you. Like, that's how I can name a lot of the anti-Western acts, but these leftists are not ready for that compensation, honestly.
Welcome, everyone, to what I believe is going to be a rather interesting roundtable episode. We are once again joined by Jasmine Soprano, and we are also joined by Matin, a fellow Iranian and someone that shares a love for history. And just, I'm going to try to be very quick here. Initially, this isn't the episode we were planned on doing this week. We had another guest planned. In fact, who is also Iranian, ex-Muslim, and she's very active on social media. And in fact, she was already lined up to join us even before we debuted our first episode. And after we finished recording our last episode with Jasmine, I messaged her, said it was great to talk to her, and I told her that she was more than welcome to join us whenever she wanted. And she told me she would absolutely love it. And I suggested that, well, our next episode is also going to be with another Iranian. So I thought it would be quite interesting to have her on for that one. She agreed. And so the following day, I messaged this other guest with the list of suggested topics, and I told her, "Look, Jasmine, the Iranian woman we talked to yesterday, she's going to be joining us." And looking back, it was an odd reaction because I expected more warmth in reply. I expected her to say something along the lines of, "Oh, that's great. I can't wait to meet her," yada, yada, yada. However, her reply was merely, "Who is Jasmine? Does she have an Instagram or X account?" So I was a bit taken aback by that, but I sent her Jasmine's Instagram, and a few minutes later, I got a reply that I can read here, basically of this guest refusing to participate if Jasmine was a part. She said that she took a look at her account. She's a Pahlavi supporter. "Sorry, but I'm bowing out of this one. I don't mind a one-on-one conversation with you to answer your questions or other co-hosts who might want to join, but I'd rather not get into a room with another Iranian I don't know who is
I think you're lagging. I think you're lagging a bit.
Am I for everyone?
No, I can.
No, now it's okay. Now it's okay.
All right. So yeah. So she refused because Jasmine is a supporter of the king, and she said she doesn't believe Iranians deserve to have. No, she said she wouldn't want to be in a room with another Iranian who doesn't believe Iranians deserve to have a democracy after all these horrors. And then she apologized. So just a couple of two quick thoughts. First of all, I do personally, I find it very strange that someone that is able to acknowledge the history of Iran and the Persian history and use it as an argument against the Muslims, who then completely disregard a connection to that history, and by completely negating the importance of the royal family as, you know, the people responsible for the golden age of modern day Iran pre 79. So to me, I do find that confusing. How can someone acknowledge the importance of history, but then have no interest whatsoever in, a breach to that history? And then, and I'm assuming this person leans more towards the left.
Gonna say,
Because it's very hypocritical to go on and on about democracy while, well, first of all, while negating the will of the people and completely ignoring the fact that, and I say this from an outside perspective, that the vast majority of Iranians, both inside and outside of Iran, want their king back.
I'm going to add one more thing, and that's the fact that she doesn't even want to be in the same room as Jasmine. So that just shows you the level of intolerance and animosity that she has towards critical thought, discussion, and just, decorum.
Because, again, it's hypocritical because you can't defend, and again, it doesn't even make sense because Jasmine and any monarchist isn't against democracy. It's a constitutional monarchy. It is democracy. And especially when you were talking about the will of the majority of Iranians, that's democracy. So it's a very left-wing concept that democracy is only good if everyone agrees with you. And to go to the extent of absolutely refusing to have a civilized conversation with a fellow Iranian who just so happens to have like a slightly different opinion, because it's not even that drastic. Both of you guys, first and foremost, want the same thing: to get rid of Islam.
You're cutting off, Nick. Your voice cut off.
Okay, what about now?
I can't hear him.
I can hear him.
So I was just saying.
I can't hear him.
No?
That's weird.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what went wrong. Sorry.
Well,
okay, now I can hear him.
Everyone for the technical difficulties, but yes, I was just saying that it's very hypocritical to outright refuse to have a conversation with someone just because that person has a slightly different opinion.
Because, it's not democratic at all, actually. And she says she wants democracy.
It's a drastic difference. It just, because you both have the common ground of wanting the regime to fall, wanting to get rid of Islam. And so, to me, it was disappointing. But, it is what it is.
I would love to add something. I try to not saying I tried, but we tried to speak with these leftists. Honestly, try to correct their bullshit narrative. A lot of Iranians have tried, actually. Unfortunately, these fucking Western leftists, excuse my language, they don't even want to talk at all. They don't even want it to talk. But when we insult them, we say, for example, "fuck you" or "go fuck yourself," whatever. They get mad. They'll be like, "Oh my God, the monarchists are so, or Iranians in diaspora are so moralist. They have less morals, dude. We have a lot. We have a lot more morals than you leftists ever had. Honestly, what I mean? You fucking censor us. You don't want to talk to us, and when we try to correct your mistakes, you go out of your way and say, "Oh, no, we don't talk to you." You go as far as leaking our address, and even go as far as try to bribe us not to become monarchists. But if we don't, you would fucking burn our house down or whatever. You know what I mean? And then you get mad when we've mad at our insults. Get the fuck out of here.
Martin, have you had anyone tell you that the 50,000 people that were brutally murdered weren't murdered, and that's just propaganda, and that you Iranians in the diaspora are making this up for your own narrative? Have you heard that crazy statement from some people?
Yep.
Well, yeah, I've heard propaganda, but I'm gonna be honest with you. It's not 50,000 to correct you. It's
No, I
actually
know
90.
it's more. It's like closer to 90 from what I've understood, right?
Yeah, 90,000. Considering the fact that this is not said by me or Mossad or Iran International or any other pro-monarchist propaganda, as they say. This is said by their own kind. You know, even some of the clerics, they claimed, "Oh, if we want to kill more, we will do that." Like it's not even said by me or any Mossad agents. It's said by some of the Shia clerics. And what's even more scarier is that the fact that these people also said that it's really bullet founded in the Iranian protesters.
It's
I'm
crazy.
like,
I've seen so
Nonsense.
many videos of people
It's crazy.
denying the deaths. Westerners and leftists and Palestinian supporters denying that anyone was killed. Horrible.
Or if they were, it was in the few thousands, and that it's all they're terrorists of the U.S. and Israel, not necessarily, or that they attacked and killed police officers and army members, right? And it was kind of like almost like an attack, not as far as an uprising, which it was. I mean, it was more of an uprising, but to say that it was an attack, or as if like they started at first, like how we see in the United States, right? With the leftist pro-Palestinian side, they're very violent and they begin the attacks first. But just to go back to what the point earlier about the leftists that did not want to join the discussion, it would have been really nice to have this individual on, because I feel like all of us, in a sense, are very curious as to why this individual has the beliefs that they do. And it would have been really nice to get some clarification on that. But because that they didn't join, we're still kind of in the dark as to why they have this like narrative that the monarchists like me, or people that support the crown prince, don't believe in democracy, which is false. And it would have been really nice to challenge that. However, they don't allow that conversation to be had. So it's very frustrating, because they almost get to continue this narrative that we don't want democracy, whereas there is no evidence, neither on the internet or even from the mouth of the crown prince himself, saying that he does not support a secular democracy. I mean, that's in his charter, in their transitional plan toward the new free Iran. Once this is all over, that's all it discusses, is a secular democracy. So I don't understand why they continue to spread this narrative, but that's almost the reason why I believe the discussion wasn't even going to be had, was because that would have challenged that individual's ideology, in my opinion.
It's very strange. I think it's very
Yeah.
strange. I'm not
and what-
Iranian, but I made content about pro-Iran and basically exposing, it. We say it on YouTube. We have to say Islamism. We can't say Islam, because then YouTube like cuts the video and then puts it down, all that kind of stuff. So I said Islamism, but whatever. And the amount of comments of people saying, "Oh, the Iranian people don't want a change of the regime. They're happy the way it is. Yada yada yada. Your 7K in your bank account." And the other thing you guys were also talking about the saying that there was no deaths, that it was just a couple of thugs rioting, like the uprisings was just
Yes.
thugs rioting.
Yeah, I've seen the videos. The videos are awful. I saw a guy who take a shotgun and just shoot into a crowd, multiple people. It's like, you can't deny this. I saw one Basiji guy beating the crap out of this poor woman who was already on the ground, smashing her face in.
Right? Like I'll never forget this video of this older lady marching with a bunch of other women and men in Iran, and she's saying, well, I don't speak, but then there was the translation. She was saying that she's been dead for 50 years. She's bleeding. She says, "I'm not afraid to die. I've been dead for 50 years." Like, that video gave me goosebumps. I was like, this is how can you see this? And I put that video on my it was like a 50-minute video talking about this stuff, and I put that. How can people watch this and have any doubt of the reality? Like, it's in front of,
because they're anti-Zionist and they're anti-American.
Their
Their religion is communism.
bigger than
That's their
love for freedom.
fanaticism.
And,
Their
Yeah,
fanaticism
you know,
is
I wanted to
communism.
ask,
Go ahead, Matthew.
talk about this other day with the two gentlemen. You know, what's even funnier is that a lot of these leftists love to use the events that happened pre 1979 as an excuse, even though those events never existed. But they try to use it as an excuse that to justify regime change. You know, like that overthrow of this Qajar zombie Mossad. And we also and these we call some the fans of Muhammad Mossadegh Wallahi's, because the way they worship this guy is insane to me, like I said. And they didn't even read his memory book, like I said. And what's even worse, they even it's the fact that there are feminists who not only protect the Ayatollahs, which I'm going to talk about it, but they also say there's a reason. Not only do they say there's a reason why 1979 revolution happened. I swear to God, I heard that. Like, I swear to God, I've heard those people saying that.
No,
And,
you didn't actually hear that. I can't believe that.
It's true.
Yeah, trust me, they said that. They said that. Like, they legit said there's a reason why 1979 revolution. Dude, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you talking about? This dude,
it's funny because the Ayatollah killed all the feminists after.
The communists, yeah.
Yeah.
30,000 of them.
Yeah, tell that to them, not me. Please, tell that to them.
It's funny because didn't the Pahlavis allow women to vote before the Swiss even did in Europe?
Yes.
Well, ask them. Ask them. Please ask those people, not us Iranians. I'm sorry to be rude here, but ask those people, because we Iranians know our history for the most part. These people are the ones who don't know their fucking history. Like, they say Muhammad. They what's even funny is that they say that Pahlavi was a patriarchal misogynist whatsoever because of
What?
interview. Yes,
But he let women in the government. He let women be teachers in universities.
Well, like I said, you need to tell them. We Iranians know our history. I'm sorry to be rude here because I'm mad. But you have to tell them for the most part. He did actually, and not to mention they even tried to say, "Oh, the Kashf hijab that happened during the Reza Shah times was anti-women." And you know what's even worse? They even protect and defend Mossadegh for the and they say that Mossadegh cared about women's rights, but in his speeches, you can see that Muhammad Mossadegh was anti-women's rights. He was huge anti-women's rights. I can tell you that. And he basically said, "Why the hell did the dictator?" Mossadegh referred to Reza Shah as a dictator. Why did the dictator give women the rights? Why did he do the Kashf hijab policy? Or why the hell did he give women the right to go to school, whatever? And during his premiership, he even banned women from schools too. That is something that these feminists don't talk about.
Weren't women allowed in TV and movies? There were beautiful Iranian films where there were women being allowed to wear whatever they wanted during the Shah's time, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And what's
I love how
is that
leftist Westerners just deny all this evidence in front of them, like it doesn't exist.
It's not that they deny it. They call it influence of the West. They call it sexualization. They make fun of us like, oh, you guys just want to be in mini skirts again, and you guys want to go to bars again, and you guys want to go to
But
the
that's what they're doing in
clubs
America
again.
with OnlyFans culture. So, like, what are they talking about?
Exactly. But that's what they do, right? They're complete hypocrites. It's what do they say? Freedom for me, but not for thee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do as I say, but not as I do.
Yeah, that's what I see
the most
anyway.
curious thing in this case is the fact that this was coming. So the guests that canceled their appearance. This is coming from an Iranian, not a Westerner. And for someone like that is so aware of what the regime has done, to then completely disregard the fact that, again, the majority of Iranians want their king back. And by disregarding that, you're also disregarding why they want their king back and all the good things that the royal family did pre-79. It's, to me, it boggles the mind. It really does, because I can't find logic in that. And again, it would have been great to have had that conversation, but yeah, it was definitely, it was very strange to outright refuse to, like she said, to be in a room with another Iranian that she doesn't know.
People that do
Because
that, it's
I
because
don't
they're
know.
afraid
I
of
think,
some kind of confrontation.
yeah, if
Or
it
they
was
know that
just,
their arguments aren't going to hold water against someone that's actually from there. That's
yeah,
the total opposite of them, and they're going to lose that battle.
yeah,
I think
she
she's
probably,
afraid
But the
of
thing
confronting
is
Jasmine.
but the thing is that they lied. Essentially, they lied. They lied, and they glanced at my page and they said, "Oh, she supports Pahlavi. She doesn't want democracy for the people after everything that they've been through." When I'm probably one of the only few Iranian content creators that all they talk about on their page is what the Iranians are going through right now. So I don't understand like how you can make that idiotic assumption.
and the
And then
only reason why there would even be a democracy now is because of the foundations laid by the royal family pre-79.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Like, so it just, like, it makes no sense. And I think it's just a case of, because she escaped Islam, then she went to another extreme. And like, I'm just assuming that she's left wing, because
Didn't she have pronouns in her bio?
no, I don't think
No,
so.
I wasn't sure. That's what I'm asking.
I mean, one.
She does, like, identify as a feminist and all that, but like,
Well, it's funny because
Oh,
thank God I haven't seen that many Iranian content creators that are like left wing and don't want the Shah. What's crazy, I've seen the opposite. I've seen like at least 4 that are Democrats that are kind of with the woke vibes and allowing people to be whatever they want. But even these people say, hey, none of that in Iran because 60 million plus people don't want that. So even though I want that in America, I'm going to respect the wishes of 60 million other people and we do what they want. So I've seen like Democrat voting Iranian, even 2 that are like, one was a lesbian married to another woman in America, and they want the Shah back. So when I saw that, I'm like, wow, these are patriots, even if they're kind of woke.
yeah.
Well, they're respecting what the people inside Iran want, right? They're not. It's almost like I see a lot of leftists, especially leftist Iranian content creators, because at the end of the day, you have to either pick your people or you pick your ideology. And what I've been seeing with these Iranian leftist content creators is that they're pushing and they're picking their ideology, and that's all they talk about, and that's all that they push on their platforms is their ideology and how the diaspora is wrong, how Iranians inside Iran are wrong, and that basically their ideology is correct because of this, this, and that, right? But for me, I pick my people because at the end of the day, if my people are saying that, they want the crown prince, or even if they didn't, right? If they were to say we don't, I would respect that. So I have to just go off of what they want and their desire, right? And then for this individual to basically disregard that completely and then to just blatantly lie about the person that they want, which is the crown prince, and then to create lies about his plan, his transitional plan, that's, I think, what is the most frustrating part of it all. Because how are you going to sit here and lie? Because for what she knew, you guys might have not been interested to read. Like, you guys could have just went based off her word, right? And I was like, oh, okay, maybe she really doesn't want democracy. Maybe we should just not continue to have, like, who would have known that would have been the case, right? But of course, thankfully, it wasn't. But what if, right? So it's really dangerous to do that.
I think that's what she
Because-
thought. I think She thought that that we would all fall for whatever she said. But when she saw there was an Iranian woman that was a monarchist, oh, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
Which,
the
like,
thing is,
it would be a smart debate. Like, it could be, but they don't want to be smart debaters.
no, they don't want that. They don't want that, honestly. I mean, I would love to also say something. And what's even funnier is that whenever we talk about the Crown Prince or overall Pahlavi family, they're going to be like, oh, the Shah was a dictator. Oh, the Shah was a Western puppet. And what's even funnier is one of the arguments that they are using about the Pahlavis is the 1921 coup d'etat. Like, bro, you didn't even read about this, you know, you didn't read about 1921, you didn't read about 1953. You're not even Iranian. You haven't read any Iranian history book. You haven't spoke to an Iranian who is very knowledgeable about what's happening in Iran or Iranian history. You're not even Iranian, my friend. And even if you were, you don't behave like Iranian. You simping for the regime who has been disrespecting and disregarding the Iranian culture and Iranian history for the and Iranian politics for them and Iranian principles, you know, for the most of their lives, you know. And not to mention, they have been lying. You know, the IRGC is also have been lying about the Iranian history for the most part. I went to Iran and I know how propagandas work because I went there. And honestly, when I was reading Iranian history, I was losing my shit for the most part. And I went as far as crying out of anger, you know. And what's even funnier is that these leftists don't want to accept that. They don't want to accept that. They just want to go along their bullshit narrative, you know. And not to mention, they also love to contradict their own narrative too towards the Shah. One time, and they even go as far as, you know, simping for the Ayatollahs, the same Ayatollahs that you know, take away a lot of rights from the Iranian people.
Well, that's because the Ayatollah is a reflection of centralized power that's very communist. So anything that is closely linked to their belief system is automatically the thing they have to defend with their life, because if it's wrong, that means they're wrong too, and they will never accept that form of criticism, that self-criticism.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, they accuse us of not taking any constructive criticism towards the Pahlavis whatsoever. But they cannot take criticism seriously. When I say, for example, the Ayatollahs are bad people whatsoever, and for this reason and that reason, they're not going to accept it. Or when they say, when I say, for example, Mossad that had a history of working with imperialist powers, according to his own memory book, they're not going to accept it. You know, they say it's a propaganda. You know. And at least for the most part, for 70% of the times, I spoke with monarchists. And when I said, for example, working with leftists, the Shah working with leftists was his biggest mistake, you know, and unaliving Taymuttash was his biggest mistake. And for the most part, they agreed. At least they were level-headed, you know. If somebody told me the same thing, I'll be like, hey, at least you're making a point. I understand that, you know. Working with the leftist parties like Iranian National Front, aka Jabhat Milli, it was his biggest mistake. If somebody told me that, I'll be like, hell yeah, I agree with that. If somebody told me that Mohammad Reza Shah was a lot kinder, you know, he should have been a lot more dictatorial, I'll be like, you know what? I fucking agree with that. I fucking agree with that. Excuse my language. Hell yeah, I agree. The Shah should have been a dictator. I wish he was a dictator, but he was not. He was a lot kinder, you know.
That's what Nixon said. Nixon said the same thing. Nixon said that he should have been a little bit more ruthless with his enemies, and he shouldn't have shown them the kindness that he did. That was his downfall.
Yeah, that's true, you know. But these people don't. But when somebody tells me, "Oh, the Shah was a puppet, a dictator," what's even funnier is these people accuse the Shah of being an Islamist. They go as far as accusing the Shah of being an Islamist. Yeah, they did.
That's hilarious.
Iranian leftists, you know, I've even seen Iranian leftists, especially separatists.
Which one is it? Like, pick. You gotta pick.
No,
They can't. They're all over the place.
Yeah, exactly. Like one time they say he was a kafir, then they say he was an Islamist. One time they say he was a Western puppet, and then they say he was a Russian or Nazi puppet. You know, Nazi Germany puppet.
I
One
hear a
time they
lot of people. Oh, sorry for interrupting. I didn't.
No, it's okay. It's okay. One day they say he was if there is a reason why revolution happened. The other time they say our revolution was stolen. They even
What?
say that. Yeah,
No, no,
yeah.
no, no. What's the logic behind that one? Explain that one. What do they say for that one?
Well, that's a question you need to ask these fucking leftists. You need to ask them.
Stolen from
Why?
who and by who?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm asking too. Like I ask these people, and not to mention that they say Khomeini stole our revolution, even though that is not true. I can even go as far as proving that we're marching with Khomeini, including Bijan Jazani's words, or even guys like Ghulam Hussein Said, these words, and all the other communist activists whatsoever, who said who literally said Labbaika Khomeini whatsoever. They were straight up saying Labbaika Khomeini. I swear to God, like they were saying that shit. Like you cannot go out of your way and say the revolution is stolen when your own kind legit made revolution happen to bring Khomeini on power.
At the end of the day, the communists and the leftists they should be angry with themselves, but they're angry and they're bitter at the fact that the Islamists used them, chewed them, and then spit them out.
But that's
And
what
not
Islam
only
has
did they
been doing
use
since
them,
700 AD.
Yeah,
not only did they use them, but after the Islamists were able to get to the point of power that they got to, which was the Islamic coup, right? Like we mentioned before, they were 30,000 of them were executed. And there was a documentary that I actually just watched today. It was about a communist woman. She basically made like a documentary about Shah Banu Farah Pahlavi, the previous queen. And she just kept asking questions like, do you think if your husband was more compassionate toward the communists and allowed them to have their freedom of speech, do you think that your husband would still be in power today? Right? Like just like ridiculous
That's awful.
questions. Yeah, and but she answered very gracefully and correctly, right? Like she answered in a way that I was even shocked about, which was that, yeah, maybe they should have had a little more freedom of speech in that sense. But at the same note, the things that the communists and the leftists still complain about the Pahlavi era, which is that they didn't have the freedom of speech, or that they claimed to have been imprisoned or tortured by then the Shah's police, the Savak, right? It is nothing compared to what the Islamic regime did to those communists after they came into power. And that's what I think is the most frustrating for us to still experience, is that even though the Islamic Republic is the most gruesome, most brutal, most disgusting, evil regime that we've probably had in our lifetime, but they still, at the very end, bring up, well, what about Pahlavi, right? Like, Pahlavi was not very nice to us, and they did arrest us, and they didn't allow us to read books, and they didn't allow us to have our secret meetings against them, and they didn't allow us. And it's really frustrating because it's like, how can you work with these kind of people? How can you have a discussion with these kind of people when they don't see the greater evil, right? Like, in my opinion, like Mateen said, the Shah should have been more harsh toward these people.
Yeah.
There was a group of people that actually tried to assassinate him. Mateen, if you can tell me the date, I'm like blanking right now on the dates. But there was a point in time where there was a group of communists that tried to assassinate him. And instead of executing them, which I think should have been done, he actually pardoned all of them.
exactly. That's
Does that sound like a dictator to you?
No, not at all. If I want to be honest
I
with
don't
you,
know. Maybe it does. I don't know. But to me, it doesn't.
no.
So I don't
wish.
see how the communists and the leftists still have enough breath in them to still say, well, Shah was a dictator, right?
Listen,
But he showed so
listen.
much compassion toward you guys. I mean, even his son today is willing to work with the leftists and the communists, and has
Yeah.
even brought one of them into his cabinet, Shirin Ebadi, who used to be a judge under Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, one of the first female judges in parliament. And she actually was one of the people that went into the streets in 1979 and protested against the Shah in favor of Ayatollah Khomeini. She even admits this with her own words. And so
Did you feel
his
sorry for
son,
that?
I'm not sure if they've had that discussion or not.
No, I
but
saw regret in her face when she was like as an older lady saying, "Yeah, I shouldn't have done that."
yeah,
The thing is,
of course, right?
Shit.
Like you committed the ultimate betrayal to
Yeah.
an individual that not only gave you a platform but gave you power, gave you respect. And instead of appreciating that, you go into the streets and you protest against him and you curse
Yeah.
against him, right? So for me to see that his son even gave her another chance, right? And is now working with her. And he even posted on Instagram today about how people should not be insulting her and should not be smearing against her, which again, if it were me, it would be different. However, it's not. And it just shows how graceful and how kind and compassionate they truly are. Not only the crown prince, but his father and his father before him, which in some people say that they should be more harsher, they should be more, ruthless and so on. But it's just not in him. He is just so compassionate and he's so kind and forgiving, which I think is such an amazing quality to have as a leader. And I feel like with everything going on right now, the people of Iran, they need that. They need kindness, they need compassion, but they also need strength, right? And in a sense, he's also showing that as well, that forgiving this kind of an individual who did betray his family is a form of strength, in my
Facts.
opinion, because I don't know if I could do it, frankly.
But that's why he's a king, because kings have that noble ability to act that way. That separates them
Yeah.
from you and I. If you and I were in charge, you and I would just want
Right, of course.
retribution and justice.
Of course.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah.
I would love to add something
So
to.
it makes it more obvious that he is proper for this position.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
By
want
the way-
anybody else to have this kind of a position,
Yeah.
and he is so deserving of it. So
Yeah.
the people right now, they're saying that we need to trust him and that we need to respect his decision, and I agree.
Yeah. By the way, can I add
As hard
something?
as it is, but I
Yeah,
agree.
so go, Martin, go.
All right. Anyways, I was saying.
Imagine you cut off. We can't
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah. You hear me now?
Yes.
You hear me now? Okay. Anyways, I was saying. Basically, I wanted to add something to Jasmine. Basically, basically, a lot of people Jasmine made some good points, but I also wanted to add something to what Jasmine said. People love to say that the Pahlavis were a dictator. Every time somebody tells me this, I'll be like, I wish he was a dictator. I wish, like I even debated this fucking blonde guy named Will's Talks. And when he asked me, so you're saying that the Shah was not a dictator? And when I said I wish he was a dictator, he fucking cut me off. He cut me off the live, and he didn't talk to me. So yeah, and what's even funny is the people that were were basically saying the Shah was a dictator. Let me ask them this: how many political prisoners were there unalive during the Shah times and arrested during the Shah times? Don't bring me the Amnesty International reports, which, by the way, Amnesty International got called out for so many of their corruptions. Not to mention, according to Pahlavi Sabeti, the Shah, or even some of the former 1979 revolutionists, the total of the people who got arrested were only 3,000 or 4,000. And according to a lot of the former 1979 revolutionists, there were less than 300 people, or even like 500, 600 people that were unalive during the Shah times. That's like less than any other modern dictators, like, for example, Gamal Abdel Nasser, Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, because Saddam Hussein unalive more, and Gaddafi don't even get me started with the amount of the executions, and not to mention that the Shah, that people who were unalive or executed, or the people who were in the prison of Savak were the same people who are governing Iran today. Not to mention that those organizations that were against the Shah, they were not even political organizations. They were T groups. They were terrorist groups. We have, for example, Fadayin Islam, who have the blood of Ahmad Kasravi, Ali Razmara, Abdul Hussein Hajir, Hassan Ali Mansour, and I can name the list goes on their hands. We have, for example, the Tudor party. They tried to balkanize northern Iran, tried to assassinate the Shah, assassinated Muhammad Masoud, assassinated Khosrow Ruzbeh, which, by the way, he was their own kind, whatever. And they even destroyed destroyed innocent people in small villages and burned buses full of innocent schoolgirls. And then we have who else do we have? We have the communists. We have the Islamists. And by the way, the Iranian National Front, the same National Front that was created by Mohammad Mossadegh, and they were funding all these terrorist groups. Not to mention, they were also funding MEK, which is another terrorist group, which was, by the way, created from the heart of the freedom movement of Iran, and not to mention, they were also had history of freeing the prisoners, freeing the prisoners of Iran, the criminals that committed political assassination.
It's crazy when I talk to Westerners here. They all just Trump wants the oil and this and that without actually knowing the history of the place. My mom dated someone who was very close to the royal family in college. She was engaged with him, and my auntie visited Iran in the 70s. And my auntie told me that Iran in the 70s was one of the most gorgeous places she's ever been to. She flew in, she saw everyone, and she says the clerics that were there in the street, they were wearing old rags. They didn't smell nice. Nobody really wanted to talk to them. They were seen as like commoners, like not very clean people, while the rest of the society was extremely clean and organized. And people don't know any of this stuff because they don't want to read. They just want to push their Western leftist narrative. It's insane.
And it's such a lack of practicality, because even if, for argument's sake, the king used to be a puppet of the West. Let's go with that.
I would definitely say, sorry.
That was the case, even if that was the case, that the king was a puppet of the West, like they claim, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a head of state that's a puppet of the West, or do you prefer a head of state that's a puppet of Islamist terrorists? Because that's what you got with the Ayatollah.
Number one.
I would definitely say a Western puppet would be the best. But the funny thing is, he was, that these Western puppets accusations, and I'm talking to you, Leftist, if you're watching this live. I guess it's not the case. But that your accusation, the accusation of Western puppets are aging as good as the milk the leftist parents returned with, if they ever had any, when even some of the former 1979 revolutionists like Abbas Milani and Sadiq Zibakalam admitted that these were all nothing but lies in their own book. I swear to God. Like they even admitted in their own speeches as well. Like Abbas Milani did a multiple speech interviews, saying that Reza Shah was a patriot and Mohammad Reza Shah was basically going out of his way and working for the interests of Iran. Not to mention, even Ali Dashti, who was formerly a hater of Reza Shah, in his own book said, "I've never seen anyone as patriot as Reza Shah." Like he later became anti-Islam, like a strict anti-Islam for the most part, after he saw what Reza Shah was doing. Oh my God, this dude was a lot crazier compared to Ahmad Kasravi, which is one of my favorite writers. Ahmad Kasravi is an absolute genius. And not to mention, Ahmad Kasravi also died not just because of his anti-Islamist rhetorics, but also his defense for Iranian against the Iranian defense of defending Iranian culture, and basically his anti-communist and pro Pahlavi stance. There's a book called Our Daughters and Sisters, written by himself, and said when Reza Shah, when the foreign countries like Soviets and Brits kicked out Reza Shah out of Iran, the same people who basically came in and caused the chaos, came back to the match list. I suggest for all the Iranian people who study Iranian contemporary history or whatever events in history, read Ahmad Kasravi's books, especially Our Daughters and Sisters. It's like my favorite book, and it's called in Farsi. It's written in Farsi. It's called دختران و خواهران ما.
I mean, I can guarantee with almost complete certainty that no leftist is ever going to read a book that negates their views. So
no, read a book in general. Like they don't read. They only read text messages.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not to mention they even insulted Abbas Milani for writing the book "A Look at the Shah." I also recommend it to all the Iranians and non-Iranians, not the leftists. I mean, the leftists obviously not going to read that, but considering the fact that they insulted Abbas Milani. But I'll be honest with you, I'll definitely recommend that. It's a solid book for a guy.
I want to read it.
He used to hate the Shah. Abbas Milani used to hate the Shah, but now he's actually in a good side for the most part, like for 80% of the times.
Nick, I kind of want to hear your take on this because it's going to be funny. I love how nobody ever references China. So China has destroyed, I think, over 20 or 20,000 mosques. They've remodeled 2,000 of them. They only have Mandarin characters. They removed all Arabic writing. They've redesigned them so they don't have any Islamic architecture. Muslims can't fast during Ramadan. They're sent to re-education camps to eat pork. They do a bunch of things, but nobody that's a pro-Islamist, 90% of them never point the finger at China. It's like it doesn't exist. It's like an elephant in the room that we're not allowed to talk about, but everyone's evil except them. I find it very ironic considering that China is the number one supporter of the IRGC. And nobody talks about this. It just shows the cognitive dissonance and the disconnect from reality that these people live in.
Yeah, the thing is, just like you answered, kind of answered your own question. Not to mention that in the words of the Crown Prince and his father, the Muhammad Reza Pahlavi, it's a typical red and black alliance things. Like they only talk about things that doesn't support their agenda. For example, you're Islamophobic, you're this, you're that, but they don't talk about their own shit, and they everything they accuse others of. Like, for example, like you mentioned, China basically unaliving Uyghur Muslims. Not to mention, even North Korea has a lot of distaste towards other religions, including Muslims. Like they don't talk about that too.
No, because it's not white people doing it, and so it doesn't serve their interest. And with China as well, they have the bonus of being a communist regime, so they can't point a finger to anything the biggest communist regime right now would do. And the thing is, like, once assuming the regime is going to fall and they're not going to make the mistake of keeping the regime in power. Like if the alternative is the communists or the leftists in general to be in power, like that's really, out of the frying pan and into the fire, because the communists are going to do just as bad, if not worse, as the regime. Like they're going to get rid of everyone that's against them, everyone that thinks differently, because that's what they do no matter which country they come into power. It's what they did in Russia, it's what they did in China, North Korea, everywhere else, Cuba, etc. Like that's their MO. So again, like to me it makes no sense for anyone, unless you have ulterior motives, unless you're a Westerner that just for some reason you've been so brainwashed that what you really want is the fall of Western civilization, and that's the only reason why you support the the regime. And you support,
But that exists, Nick. Unfortunately, there are idiots out there that want that.
yeah, and like it's this like self-hatred, it's absurd self-hatred, and and yeah, like if and that's why to me it would have been like I don't think it would have been possible to have a full episode with the guest that canceled on us.
Yeah.
I think she would have cut off. I think like she would have come on thinking that, oh, this is just a bunch of foreigners, I can convince them of anything. And once she started realizing that that wasn't going to be the case, and we weren't just going to shut up about the evils of communism and left-wing ideology and all that, I don't see her being on for 2 hours. I think she would have cut off, and that would have been it, because these people, they don't take criticism well.
Listen.
Go ahead.
Can I say something? No, you're finished?
Yeah, go.
Oh, okay. I try my best not to interrupt you. Considering the fact that I also because I have to say this before I go, because I got to go to the gym. But before I go, I would love to say that these people, these communists, will no longer be welcomed warmly anymore by the Iranians. They will be welcomed in a beyond. If you know beyond scared straight, you know what I'm talking about. They will be welcomed in a beyond scared straight type of. They will get the beyond scared straight type of welcome. If you know what beyond scared straight is, it's like the prison. The prisoners yelling at them. Now they're not in the prison, but it's gonna. The Iranians inside Iran will make the life of these leftists a living hell, if I want to be honest with you. And I don't blame them. And this is just a warning. This is not a threat. This is just a warning. These Iranians inside Iran will make leftist lives a living hell. Like they have to accept that shit, whether they like it or not. And so they need to make this decision. Either they stand with us or not. After the regime is gone, you won't accept a warm welcome from us. You will accept. You will see an absolute beyond scared straight type of welcome. A ruthless type of welcome that you will see in your nightmares. If I want to be honest with you. So yeah. Anyways, this is the last thing I wanted to say. It was nice talking to you guys, and thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye, Maxime.
Yeah, and like just to add to that, I think it's so absurd, and so it shows such a lack of self-awareness, of accountability for in 2026 that we still have left-wing Iranians and communist Iranians, when it was thanks to the ideology that 79 happened. Without the communists, without the lefties, the Ayatollah would have never come into power. So the lack of accountability to now, for the first time in 47 years, you have the best chance that you ever gotten to throw down the regime, and you're still defending an ideology that caused this mess to begin with. To me, that's just absurd.
But they've been defending the undefendable for as long as they've existed. That's the whole premise of what communism is.
Yeah,
it's
ridiculous.
You think that, at this point they would be like, okay, this clearly doesn't work. Let's try something else.
I find the most disgusting behavior are people like the Hassan Piker guy that wears like
Oh,
$3,000 clothing, and they wear
stop. He's
They wear
horrible.
designer glasses, and in Colombia we call them comunista caviar, communist caviar, where they
Yeah.
drink champagne, they eat caviar, and they talk about all these left wing things. But they're the ones that don't want to pay taxes. They're the ones that move to
Yeah.
red states like Las Vegas and Nevada to not pay taxes. So they're a walking contradiction, and I find them the most disgusting of all.
I think he's a Muslim. He's not a Muslim?
Possibly, but I know he's a communist.
He is. He probably is, and he. I don't know if you know this. He got into a controversy. A lot of people don't know this, but he actually he always has his dog on stream for hours and hours, and it was found out that basically I'm going to say allegedly, but you can see it for yourself. He shocks his dog. He has the dog has a collar, and he shocks the dog, so the dog has to stay in place on stream the whole freaking time. And then he denied the allegations, but people have been really invested in trying to expose him, and they made slow motion videos. He has hours and hours and hours and hours of streams, and some people made compilations of moments where he has a controller where he clicks to shock the dog, and he doesn't always grab the controller where you can see it, but he does this, and at the same time that he does this, you see the dog behind jumping or stopping in its tracks. It's awful. And yet people still believe the BS that oh no, it's not. The dog is just crazy. She got scared out of nowhere and jumped.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, but Islamists believe they can beat dogs with sticks. The dogs can be in the home.
Yeah, no, they abuse animals in general.
But I want to see what
why?
these vegan PETA feminists would say if they had a compilation video of seeing Islamists in Afghanistan or Pakistan beating the crap out of dogs. What's going to happen then?
No.
Yeah, I'd like to see it too.
They'll say it's. You
I
know
mean-
what they'll say? This is the
What?
problem with current times. They'll say it's AI. It's AI generated. It's not real.
Not
That's
even
the
that,
problem.
because again, to them, the most important thing is the survival of their ideology. So that's the priority. So they don't really care if so and so, goes against basic human decency.
We'll say, oh, but it's a faraway culture, so because it's so far away, we have to respect it. I love how they think that they think that a distance of miles and kilometers is what allows anything to be permissible. So if I go shoot a woman in the face and then rob her organs, but I did it in North Korea and I did it far away and I wore special clothing, which means I'm a different religion, then it's okay. But if I wear a suit and tie and do it in New York City and I'm white, then it's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you're wearing a oh my god, if you're wearing a turban, it's fine.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, I mean it's the
I'm
same.
laughing,
It's the
but
same.
it's a defense mechanism because it's freaking sad. It's ridiculous. You
No,
know?
but this is what they're known for now, and I feel like now it's getting more and more and more exposure thanks to social media. But look what happened with the Ukrainian girl on the bus that had about 7 African American individuals, and she was stabbed in the neck by an African American individual, and they all just looked and saw it happen, right? But then George Floyd, he gets basically, killed in a police attack or whatever, right? He was arrested and he died during the arrest, and people were freaking out because the cop was white, and they said that he needed to get the death penalty.
I was a leftist at the time. I fell for that. I was fighting with people. Oh, George Floyd, and totally ignoring the other fact that he was probably high. It probably was a really bad timing because he happened to get restrained while he was having a problem, a health problem. The police didn't know. There's so many things that could have happened in that instance. Everybody forgot everything, and it again, empathy getting exploited for these insane narratives. And some people don't learn. That's the crazy thing for me is some people, they don't learn, and ultimately this whole Iran thing is it. And again, I'm not Iranian, but it pisses me off that people this infighting like if people really want like if they really hate what Islam has done to Iran for decades and decades and decades, then that should be the priority, taking that regime down. It shouldn't matter like what happens next. Like does it really matter like if you're anti monarchy or not? Like who the fuck, like who cares right now? Like what matters now is bringing down the regime, this division, the infighting, I'm not going to show up in a call because I cannot be in the same room. You know what? Like would you rather be in the same room as a person that just disagrees with you on like what happens after the regime is taken down, but you both essentially want the regime to come down? Or would you want to be in the room with like Ayatollah? Apparently you want to be in a room with Ayatollah. Like what? You know, like the infighting, the division is exactly what is making Islam and the takeover thrive. Not only historically what happened with Iran, but what is happening in the West. It's the infighting, it's the division, it's us not understanding that we can have different perspectives, we can have a bit of different values, but ultimately we need to unite when there's a common enemy.
It's funny that you say that, Jen, because the Muslims, for the most part, are almost always united. Say what you want about them, that they're barbaric, that they're savage, they rape, that there's pedophilia involved.
True.
But most of the time, they always stick together. Yes, the Sunnis and Shiites hate each other, but they hate each other less than they hate Jews or Christians or Westerners.
Exactly.
So they believe, hey, once we gotten rid of all the Jews and Christians, then we can fight each other. But in the meantime, we're going to unite.
Exactly. And
Very
that
true.
is crazy. And then what I really don't like, what I really hate about West, like what I hear a lot of Western people talk, like especially leftists about this, when people want to opinionate about Iran, is how they're like, well, first of all, a lot of Westerners that are commentating about, Iran is fine, like this is just propaganda for the West. These are the same people who if you give them the world map, and you ask them, where's Iran? They won't know.
And they can't point to it.
They can't even point. Like, if you can't point the country in a map, don't commentate about it. They probably don't even know where Israel is and where Iran is. And yet they're still always talking about Israel. Like Israel is like their freaking fetish. And like these people, they are so passionate about hating Israel and Trump that anything that has like a contribution or help by Israel or Trump is automatically like, oh no, we're totally against it. You want it? What? Trump wants to contribute to a cause that wants to free women. Israel is trying to contribute to a cause to take down the Islamic regime that kills like millions at this point. We hate Israel. We hate Trump. No way. Keep the regime.
Yeah, they said that there's no good intention behind it. Like, you think that he cares about Iranian people? No, he just wants your oil. Or no, he just wants to take over the land and make it an expansion of Israel or America.
It's very better than what it is now.
About that. It's so funny about that. I know exactly what he's trying to do outside of helping Iranians, and it's trying to destroy China's grasp on the US dollar. For the last 15 years, China have been trying to bypass buying oil in dollars, because since World War II was over, as a consequence, the petrodollar was invented, where oil has to be traded in US dollars, and it always coffee, oil, tech. It goes through a bank in New York, and they charge a percentage of it if it's paid for outside of the US, whoever the purchaser is. So China's been doing that, where they buy oil from Iran, they buy oil from Venezuela, Maduro or Chavez. So what does Trump do? He goes into Venezuela, uses the premise that they're drug dealers, which they are. You're doing the right thing, but for a dual motive. You also want the Chinese to stop buying the crude oil in yuan, in their currency, to destroy the US dollar. He does the same thing with Iran. Now that Bashar al-Assad is no longer in control of Syria, China isn't buying Syrian oil either. Russia announced the other day, hey, we don't want to be in the US's hit list either, so we're going to start trading oil in dollars. So isn't this something you would want, though? Because you have your Amazon Prime, you buy your iPhone, you get your Big Mac, you're a feminist, you wear your clothes, you're on OnlyFans. It's in your best interest, you fucking moron, that the US dollar is the world's reserve currency, you fucking idiot. And yes, it benefits the Iranian people at the same time. So what if United States benefits from it economically? You do realize there are trillions and trillions of dollars in debt, and he's trying to devalue the US currency so interest rates go down and that you can have a better life. God, you fucking idiot. Go to North Korea then.
That-
Go to fucking North Korea if you don't
But
want
this-
any of this to happen.
Two
But
things
this is-
can be true at the same time. And it was the
And
same
this-
thing with
exactly.
Venezuela. Like Trump only can, like, what's best for Trump can also be what's best for the people of Venezuela. And it's the
Exactly.
same thing
That's what I
here.
said.
Like that's how the real world works. Not everything is black and white.
That's how life
And-
works. It can be serving to other people and it can be self-serving. Everything is self-serving. Even loving someone else is self-serving because you also receiving love sometimes, often, hopefully, you know?
But this is the thing that I can't stand about the American First crowd, okay? Like they keep saying this is not our war, right? Like why are we getting involved with this? Like Joe Kent, right? Like he came out and he used
moron.
to be on yeah, and he basically said that like there was no imminent threat and how dare we go into a war with Iran, right? Well, this is the thing that I can't stand is because there was an imminent threat. Every single day for 47 years, these people would wake up out of bed and literally say death to America and death to Israel. And they don't mean just the American government. They don't mean just the president, which, not to mention, they've tried to assassinate our current president multiple different times. They're talking about everyday American people that wake up in their homes and live in peace. The people of Israel, do you know how miserable they are right now? They could literally be sitting at dinner with their families enjoying their meal and then boom, sirens, they got to go underground. Like, could you imagine going through that every day where you just cannot live in peace, where you can't just get a full night of sleep and rest? That's why they're doing this. They're not doing this because of the oil or to get like a land grab. They're doing this because they want their people to live in peace so they don't have to go underground every single day. So Americans aren't at imminent risk every single day because the more that these people stay in power, the longer and the more of a possibility it will be that they will be in danger. And that's what the leftists and the communists and the Islamists and the Muslims, right, that are, on that side don't want to understand, that the reason why they're living in the West or in Europe and they're able to go in the morning and get a Starbucks and go to work and get a nice fat juicy paycheck, and they're able to drive in their nice cars and go to their nice houses and be able to like have these freedoms, is because of what is happening with this, one of the things with this war. Okay, like it's all a part of that, and they're making it seem like it's like this other narrative of like, oh, Trump and Netanyahu just want to, do this Israeli expansion project. No, they're literally trying to protect you. They want you to live as stupid as you are. They want you to be able to live your stupid life and be able to make your stupid decisions. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is that so hard for them to understand? Like, even trying to converse with these people is literally like talking to a brick wall. They
so
don't want to get
I
it.
think the brick wall will be more responsive.
It's funny.
At this
I've seen
point.
so many Israelis say, if it means that we're going to have to stay in bomb shelters and if it means the Iranians are going to be free, that I'm okay risking my life in a bomb shelter if it means that these people get freedom after 47 years. I've seen countless of people that are Israeli saying this online before the bombing started.
It's not fair. It's not fair. Like there are babies that are taking their first steps right now in these bunkers.
Yeah, I saw that.
There are, they have to bring these like air mattresses and they have to sleep in air mattresses. Like they have to, if there's like a birthday party or even a wedding, I've seen weddings in these underground bunkers. Like, I mean, that's not fair.
But
And
leftists will say, oh, but they deserve it because they killed thousands in Palestine. It's Palestine, from the river to the sea. Palestine, watermelons.
Yeah, but
it's
talking about the 30,000 Black Nigerian Christians that have been slaughtered in Sudan. Oh wait, no, you don't want to talk about that, do you?
But nobody wants to talk about
not
why
trendy enough.
The war in Israel Palestine started. Like, why did it start? Oh, it's the
not
Jews.
trendy.
It's the Jews. They're mean. They want to take over the world. They own a little country in the middle of a bunch of Muslims, but like they want to take over the world. They own the world somehow. Because Candace Owens said so, and Candace Owens is very reliable.
And she's always read about everything. Yeah. She doesn't talk about the Egyptians being beheaded.
She saw Charlie Kirk saying that he was being controlled by the
There's a
FBI.
screenshot on WhatsApp that says that I'm going to be hunted by Israel. Candace, I'm sending you a screenshot before I die.
What the heck?
I
She
mean,
had a dream
I
and she
saw
believed in
a
her dream.
video that her husband wanted to be the next in line to lead the Turning Point USA organization.
Yeah, I
And
believe it.
Yeah, because it wasn't until that didn't pan out that suddenly she started having an issue with all of that. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like,
If you're so
really,
smart, Candace, why did you work for Ben Shapiro anyway, him being Jewish?
But what I can't stand the most about this whole narrative of like Jews control the world and they control the banks and all this stuff, if that's the case, then why are these people allowed to have a platform? Why is Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and all these other far right extremists, why are they able to profit and have a platform, right, spreading blood libels against the state of Israel? Why are they allowed to make these claims, right, that they control all of these aspects of the world? I think it's utter nonsense, okay? But
well, they have an argument for that.
True fascism would never allow dissent. If you go to Mussolini's Italy and you spoke bad about the government or you criticized Il Duce, you'd be put in jail or shot. The same thing would happen in Germany or Franco is Spain. So these people have no idea what they're talking about. If Trump really was a dictator like they're talking about, you could say this on Instagram, they're going to track you. Some secret police is going to knock on your door and send you to some death camp.
I mean,
no, but they say so. They say, but Trump apparently 2 years ago, Trump wanted to. He was going to start concentration camps. If you were gay, you were going to go there.
I haven't heard this one. I really haven't heard this one. Wow.
Yes, that he was going to start concentration camps. And that he's going to round up all of the illegals or the non-American, the first generation Americans. That he was going to take away the birthright of like basically children of immigrants that were born in the United States. He was going to take away their citizenships. That he was going to
camp and that. But I hear a lot of leftists saying that the concentration camps exist and that they're there. That's where they're taking all.
They were. Obama had them. Obama separated tons of children from their moms and dads.
They put them in cages.
Said it on Univision. He said it on Univision, and I saw videos of Bill Clinton getting standing ovations in Congress saying that we need to ramp up the deportations. And I saw a video from CNN from 2016 of what an ICE raid was and how brutal it was. And this is on CNN. It's on YouTube. It's like Obama talking about it on YouTube. Bernie Sanders talking about it in 2015. And you show this stuff to them, and they act like you're showing them Cantonese literature.
Yeah, they do this. Sorry, can't see. I don't have my glasses.
No, Bill Mayer, he actually had I think it was Adam Schiff, who's like a Democrat, and he was reading like a statement, and he was like, yeah, can you believe that Donald Trump would say something like that? And Adam Schiff was like, yeah, that's just how he is. He's a fascist. He's like, actually, that was Obama in 2009 that said that.
But
gotcha.
They reject even acknowledging that they don't even want to. If you send them a link or something to watch that, they will say like, "Oh no, I'm too emotionally overwhelmed now. Stop."
I've heard what they say is, yeah, but Obama did it with love. He deported with love, and he did it peacefully.
Yeah, Obama did it under the radar. He wasn't so public
with it. Arizona because Arizona wasn't complying with ICE.
It still happened regardless, and I mean, 73 people died under Obama, like during these ICE raids under Obama, and nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about that.
Yeah, not to mention Obama bombed in the drone attacks. But like,
Sudan, Pakistan,
the people now, like the America first folks and Europe first and all, like they're the same ones that during World War II they were saying they were literally going to the streets protesting so that America wouldn't join the war against the Nazis. So and they learned nothing from history. That like you can't turn a blind eye towards evil, and that's what the regime is. It's what the Nazis were. Like, so the same kind of people that were protesting because they didn't want America in the war against Nazi Germany, completely negating the fact that and it was the same argument. It was like, oh, there's no perceived threat, like to you, because you don't want to see it, because you're too dumb to realize that as long as in that case, the Nazis are still a thing, and now the Islamic regime, everyone, everywhere is at danger. Like just
Nobody
because you
people
can't see it or
wanna-
you don't want to see it doesn't mean the threat is not there. And regimes like this cannot allow to continue. They just cannot. It's good versus evil. I don't care if Trump has selfish motives. Like I'm a big fan of selfishness, because because that should be everyone's primary motivation. Like you should prioritize yourself. You should do the things that, like, okay, I'm gonna benefit from this. I'm gonna prioritize myself. But by doing this, like what comes like into the decision process is like, okay, if I do this, will others also benefit? Yes, then great, win-win. That's how it works. No one here is selfless. We're not monks. Like we do the things we do because we want what's best for us. And what's best for me can also be best for Alberto, from Jan, for Jasmine, and so on. So I don't care if Trump only cares about the oil and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, great. So what? It's still what's best for the people of Venezuela, what's best for the people of Iran, what's best for the people of Cuba, like and everywhere else.
But
Like that's how it
leftists, their whole
works.
thing
Especially
is
in Cuba.
Israel. The evil is not the thing with the leftists. The problem is they really really believe, because they really been brainwashed, that the problem, the number one evil of the world, is not Islam, it's the Jews and it's Israel, and that is the big problem. The great brainwashing. People talk about like the great replacement, the great this, the great that, the great brainwashing. That's the problem. It's been. And in a very short amount of time, somehow people have been really brainwashed to believe. We went from doing the swastika and like the symbol is like totally unacceptable. You can't even look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. And like criticizing Prince Harry for like dressing up as a Nazi on Halloween or whatever. We went from demonizing that, to out of nowhere, the Jews are the problem, and just saying it publicly without a problem.
It's funny that you say that, because they say, "Oh yeah, Jews bombed hospitals in Palestine, and a true Western country would never do that." Hello, England dropped so many bombs on Germany in civilian populations where the Nazis weren't even using civilians as hostages. The Americans bombed the crap out of Dresden, a city that had no military personnel whatsoever, massacred so many people, and yet that's not a war crime. And Israel is the only country that does war crime.
But they don't want to talk about the fact that these were not just hospitals that had just sick patients and cancer patients and people that, I mean,
Yeah, they were buildings that used to be hospitals.
No, I know. I was going to get to that next, but my point is they don't even know that the Americans and the Brits bombed cities in Germany that had no military personnel, and yet they say that only Israel would even attempt to do that, and that America and England would never do that.
No, these were terror bases, and that's what I'm saying. Like, even the IRGC today, right now, as we are speaking, they are using hospitals and schools as terror bases, and they use that as the excuse of, oh, like, if they are able to bomb, then we're going to be able to use that as like a defense. Like, oh, they're bombing hospitals and schools. Look how evil they are. No, you are using them as terror bases. So they are bombing terror bases. They're not, I mean, how stupid do you think that we are? And not to mention, like in Cuba, right? When Hassan Piker and Code Pink just recently went over there, and they had that concert with that Irish band, the Degenerates, right? I don't know what their names are, but they're Degenerates.
That's the name of the band, Degenerates.
They used up all of the electricity, and everyone in one of the hospitals in Cuba, they died because they were on ventilators, and they needed that life-saving. Yeah, they died because they used all of the electricity.
Why are still people giving the time of day to Hassan Piker? He's like he's really, really a terrible, terrible person.
Like, the whole crowd at that concert, there were no Cubans there. It was
no Cubans.
Their team. Like, that was it.
No, but nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about how they literally just killed an entire hospital filled with patients that needed life-saving medical treatment and needed ventilators, and they created this stupid concert, right? And they Like, no, I don't know. It's just not talked about, right? The leftists don't want to talk about that. But
So
to
the
me,
friend,
that's evil. That's more evil to use up electricity and to kill a bunch of innocent people, right? Rather than bombing a terror base that, yes, at one point in time, yes, it was a hospital, or yes, it was a school, right? Like there's that girls' school in Manab in
Yeah, but
Iran,
it's
right?
it's
The
not anymore.
Tomahawk, they claimed that was from the US, which I actually don't believe that, but it, hit the school. But the school had like it was basically either next to or it was on top of a terror base. Okay.
yeah,
So obviously, yeah, it's going to get struck. And mind you, they were warned ahead of time, like, hey, like we are going to be striking. You may want to remove everyone from the area, which is what Israel does in Gaza and the region of Palestine. Okay. They
That's an
warn
important
people
thing to
ahead of
mention.
time.
That was an important thing that wasn't mentioned. Like when people are crying about it, they're not saying,
No,
"Oh, they were
they
warned."
never. Because it doesn't
Right?
go with their narrative. They want them to be so evil, so they say that they're just bombing recklessly. No, they call, they send text messages, they put out pamphlets and flyers. They do everything to ensure that human life is not lost. But guess what? The terrorists don't allow that. What, you think the terrorists are going to be like, yeah, guys, everybody leave. We're about to be bombed, right? Like, just go ahead and escape. No, they're going to force them to stay so that they do die, so that way they could report the casualties and say, look at what Israel and America has done. They've just killed all these innocent people, not realizing that they did that on purpose. They made it so. But
How
nobody
much
wants to talk about
brainwashing
that.
did it take for us to really fall, for us, well, for the West to really believe in all the BS and end up like cheering on for things that eventually are just going to destroy us?
did you guys see that BBC documentary of the boy narrating the Palestinian thing? And then they found out that the boy's dad was a top Hamas man and that 1,500 mistakes all in Palestine's favor. And then the BBC had to pull the documentary because they found that out. And they say, oh, yeah, but we swear we're impartial.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
There was a
This is coming from the same TV station that's being sued by Trump because they edited his speech.
Yeah.
Oh, he won the lawsuit.
He
That's
won?
already done with, and he won.
They
Oh,
didn't-
wow.
A shit ton of
BBC is now
money
saying
from
that trans
BBC.
women's milk is good for babies too.
Yeah, because their argument, the BBC's argument against the lawsuit was, oh, it didn't really matter because Trump won the elections in the end, so it didn't really change anything. It didn't really.
Yeah, we didn't fuck him over in the process, so it's
What
okay.
the heck?
Yeah, so it's fine. But like that's like under that logic, attempted murder is not a crime.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's fine.
Yeah.
So
So there was
Oh
a
my
famous case in
God.
Argentina
How
during the
stupid
populist
you
government of
are.
Cristina Kirchner, where there was a man who was a burglar, and he falls through the roof of the woman's house, and he breaks his knee on a glass table. He sues her for damages and wins. This was in the old Argentina government, which was a very populist socialist
yeah,
government.
I don't think it would fly these days in Argentina.
Oh my gosh. What the heck? They
Like,
really
but
think people are
that's
stupid.
the logic, and that's like it's
Like-
it's an immensely corrupt institution. Like,
Why didn't
it's-
people massively cancel BBC? Because like if the narrator is proven to be unreliable in one thing, that should be enough to completely break
Yeah.
the belief system towards that institution. But
I think
like,
the head of the
Because
BBC had to
it's
resign
justifiable because
after the Trump thing.
sure,
it's
but
not
like it
just the
doesn't
head
matter
though;
who's
it's
in
everybody else
charge,
that
like, they're all
agreed.
the same.
Everybody else.
No,
that
and the worst part is
No.
that 60% of England want to remove that mandatory fee. So if you have a TV in England and you have a TV, you have to subscribe to the BBC. It's obligated by the government to sustain the
Yeah, you have
BBC,
to keep it
and
license.
60% of people don't want to pay it anymore.
But within
And
that
it is ridiculous
60%,
because you do get because I used to live in the UK, and you do get those letters. You get letters in the mail, like written in red, basically threatening you. If you don't pay the TV license, you have to pay a fine. You're going to be persecuted. Like, they do send those letters.
Germany's
Wow.
like that too. They do that
Yeah.
in Germany. If you have a radio in your car, like a little radio thing, or if you even have a TV and you don't even watch cable, they still send you a letter saying that you have to pay for it. And we
Really?
don't watch cable. Yeah, we have Netflix, we have HBO, we stream, right? but doesn't matter. You have a TV and you have a car that has a radio in it. You have to pay for those services, even if you don't listen to them. And it's like a law. So you can't just bypass it and say, oh, well, we're not like, there's no waiver. You have to pay it.
Really?
Because they do threaten you with, oh, someone is going to go into your house and is going to check if you're, if you're paying for the TV and blah blah blah.
Oh my God!
At this point, I would believe it because they go to your house if you made a post that made someone cry.
Yeah,
Yes.
or anti-Islamic tweet.
Yes. Yeah, God bless
Crazy,
America.
it's crazy that we live in a world where a 16-year-old like Greta Thunberg was able to convince Germany and France to stop their nuclear power plants because it makes them feel bad. And then China now has complete control over energy, and France and Germany went back 50 years economically because of that.
But I think that's a story. Like, I think that maybe Greta was like, Greta's ideas didn't come from.
No,
Greta's
I know,
brain.
but the fact that it worked, that it means that Germany denuclearized energy, and so did France. The fact that it worked and it was successful at what they were trying to do just shows you how sad everything's become in terms of academia and just common sense and logic.
Yeah,
No wonder
and
Germans are pissed.
Earlier, you guys were talking about George Floyd and Irina Zarutska, and just an example of how this whole thing works. If you let me share the screen. If you Google his name, you see here the Wikipedia and says who was murdered by a white police officer.
Wow.
But then, let me share the other screen.
It's always they cry about race, but they always make it about race. They always have to make it about the color.
But they don't make it about color when it's one of them doing like a crime.
If you Google Irina,
it's just gonna say some
there's
random
no
thing,
mention whatsoever that it was a black guy.
A black guy that had already had like 14 prior convictions, right?
Like the suspect, yada yada yada.
A mental health issues history
and prior criminal charges.
Holy. You know what?
There's
what
no mention whatsoever, and same thing in the Wikipedia box. There's no mention whatsoever of his race. But when it's a white police officer, then it's mentioned.
And these are the people that were, oh my God, Ukraine, my Ukraine emoji, my Ukraine flag outside my house. Yeah, but it's a Ukrainian refugee being. Yeah.
They stayed quiet. The same people that were crying about Ukraine. I posted a bunch of I shared a bunch of stuff about Irina at the time. And I remember everybody that was crying about Ukraine, no one, not even a freaking reaction thing to the story, nothing. I'm like, what the heck?
Because
I wonder,
if
Irina was not blonde and white, would she get more empathy from people? I don't understand the logic.
It's just like the girls that are being murdered right now by illegals in the United States.
Yeah.
There's no one other than conservatives that are standing up for them. And then yet the women, right, they say that white men are the number one leading, murderers or serial killers or whatever, right? Or in domestic violence but their voice is so they're so outraged when it comes to them. But they're not outraged when it comes to these beautiful girls that are being basically slaughtered like animals.
Last episode, we talked about the liberties they take when casting historical roles. But very recently, Netflix did a series, I think it was called Adolescence.
The one in the UK, based in the UK.
Yeah. It's based on a real story about this teenage Muslim, the murderer. But surprise, surprise, in the Netflix show that's inspired.
They make him white?
They make him white.
Can you share the image of that? Oh my gosh, please.
Well, I didn't even know this one. So they make now they're doing it where they make people white, but if the white person was based off a criminal that was a different skin color, that's a first for me.
Yes. Oh my God, you're gonna be surprised. But this show, do you know how many people that I know watch the show and we're like, oh, this is a great show. This really makes you think about the incels, the white incels that hate women, the misogynists. And I'm like,
I I did see one where they made an ad, a pro-immigration ad, where there's a white British sniper who's like a nationalist shooting down a woman and child in a raft. And it's never women and children. It's always like 30-year-old men.
Was it BBC that put that out?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
I saw that. Yeah.
That was last week.
Saw that.
Which,
by the way, has
week.
never happened.
People
Which has
have
never happened. So I
lost-
don't
Yeah,
understand
because people
why.
don't even have guns in England anymore. Their guns were taken away in the 90s. So how is the guy going to get a sniper rifle?
Oh my god, it's exhausting.
Like
I'm
I
exhausted.
don't
Completely
know the
lost it.
name of that one, but I do know that it's just like they're not even subtle anymore.
Yeah,
Because-
Jen, did you see they make a new Harry Potter and they're making Severus Snape black?
I saw that.
Oh, and the
HBO.
descriptions in the book say that he's pale.
And the thing is, like, that completely changes the story. Of all the
Yeah.
characters they could turn black, the fact that they chose Snape, because then he makes everyone in a fucking show racist. Because then
Mhm.
suddenly the three kids, Harry,
They hate
Hermione,
the black teacher.
Ron, yeah. Why are you suspicious of the only black teacher?
Yeah,
What's
I
wrong
would
with
rather gouge my eyes with a spoon than watch that ever.
Oh, it's gonna be.
I think by then the technology for you to actually AI generate the real Snape into the TV show while you're watching it will exist, and if so, I will do that.
I mean, it's getting to that point because it is just ridiculous. And then, plus, not to mention, like, Harry's parents suddenly are a bunch of racists because they also bullied the black guy, including, like,
Yeah, Harry's parents are racist because they
so
bullied the black
bad.
based on the book.
It's
Yeah,
so
I didn't think of that one. Yeah.
Why did they make Voldemort?
Oh, and
black?
Harry's mom's a racist too because Snape was in love with her, but she chose Harry's dad, so she's a bigot for falling in love with a white guy and not the black guy that loved her.
and not only
J.K.
that,
Rowling
she
is gonna
led
be
the black
pissed.
guy
Let's
on
just say
and then
that.
chose.
No, she signed
Like,
off
I
on
don't
it?
think, yeah, like, that's the thing. I think J.K.,
What?
like, she's,
Isn't she anti-trans though?
Yes.
yes, but that's about it. Other than that, she's extremely woke.
Oh, so they only show that side of her on Instagram. I was so
Apart from
disappointed with
her
another
stance,
show. So I was a big fan of Fallout. I played the video games as a kid and I love them. I think it's the greatest video game ever created. I've got the memorabilia at home, the limited edition bobbleheads, tokens, the poker chips and everything. And when I found out that they made the main character, a woman, I'm like, I refuse to watch this. I haven't watched it, even though it was like number one on Amazon.
like, that's fine because, like, if you play the video games, you can also play.
Have them right here. Look.
You can create your character and, like.
Oh, look! Ah!
But the issue, like, the show is complete dog shit. The show completely
Yeah, I watched the first
butchers the
season.
lore. But like, that's what they do, and they never.
Can I even
learn.
have the suit, the 101 suit?
Oh my god, he really is like the #1 fan.
I'm a huge fan.
And you have a whole mural too.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
got
have
this
the
little one too.
Because, like, there's a recipe for cookies in the official, I think it's the official or unofficial Fallout cookbook, and the cookies are really good.
Yes.
Oh, I want to have cookies now.
Me too.
Oh, I love cookies.
Yeah, like
I made the cookies using the Incredibles recipe for Jack Jack. Those are good too. They're on Disney.com.
The Harry Potter show, it's going to be the most expensive show ever. It's going to be like 100 million per episode, which I don't know. I don't see how that's realistic, but whatever. And, like,
What?
them to go all out and then do that.
So
Like, they're
sad.
so disrespectful. Like, why would you do that?
Also, why is Snape wearing a tracksuit, man? Is he in the ghetto? Like, that's so offensive.
I saw a video on someone's Instagram where they do the Snape riding on a broom, doing a rap ghetto thing. How he's gonna kill Harry.
And,
You saw that one, Jen?
I saw it on YouTube.
And I think, I don't know if we're gonna get, best not risk it. We might get copyright.
The only thing we're missing now is where they do an origin of Lionel Messi and they make him African or something. That's what we're missing now.
I'm
It's just
exhausted.
ridiculous because
I
like
am
it
just
doesn't
done.
work. Like the modern audience that they keep, you know,
And then they wonder
mind-
why everything bombs and fails, and nobody wants to watch their
that's
crap
the
product.
thing. That's the thing. Like it doesn't work
Yeah.
at all. And yeah,
I miss like old Hollywood. Like I miss the movies from
Oh,
like
yes.
the 2000 era, like or even like from like to the 2010s era. Like
Everything
like
pre-COVID
movies
was
were
good.
so good. Like I just watched Inglorious Bastards last night on Netflix, and it is a fantasy. It's not real. Like I know it's just like
Yeah.
something that's created, but even that one was so good, right? Like it wasn't so blatantly outrageous like this. Like what is this?
Yeah, I love that you mentioned old Hollywood, because one of the big things with Hollywood that I actually want to make like a deep dive video on this on my second channel, which is old Hollywood. What made it so mystical and like now like something like aspirational and precious was mostly also because there was this enigma with the personal lives of the actors. They weren't freaking like going online, showing their daily life, crying about things they don't understand. It was the mystique of they showed up glamorously in the events. They did
Yeah.
their acting, done. And it all fell apart from the moment people like you're an actor, you're already famous, but it's not enough for you. So you want to be famous on the internet too, and you want to be famous all the time. You want to be famous when you take a poo. You want to be famous when you go to work.
I have a political
like-
opinion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and the entitlement, because like I used to work with actors, and I can guarantee there's some of the dumbest people out there. Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. Like you can get by having conversations with them as long as it's surface level, and it's about if you talk about movies and art, and it's fine. Other than that, like there's nothing there, because I don't know, like maybe they need the extra space to memorize lines, but there's also like an incredible sense of entitlement because they do think they're these artists that
Change the
when
world.
yeah, and it's like you're not even writing this shit, other people are. You're just reading lines someone else wrote for you, like just
But
sit
then
the
they
fuck
say, I
down,
want
do
to
your
make
job.
the character my own.
Yeah,
Bro, make it the
and like
screenwriter's own.
and some of them are truly insufferable, like they really are. And
George Clooney.
so yeah, like this idea that people have, actors like know anything other than acting, like it's ridiculous, because
I like how the ones that aren't popular anymore have taken a different turn, like Russell Brand. Like I like that because they're kind of exposing what the industry stood for.
Like if you go, it's the same thing as academia. Like if you go through the system since you're a young kid, then that's it, you're screwed. Like you're going to be brainwashed, you're not going to know anything because you never learn anything except for your craft. You're going to assume that because everyone around you inside that bubble is going to treat you like you're this genius artist. And it's the same thing with academia. If you go through all the steps and you follow your orders and you recite everything they told you to memorize since you're a kid all the way to university, then yeah, you're going to be accepted by them, and everyone inside that bubble is going to tell you how smart you are, but not really. You're going to be extremely brainwashed. And it's the same thing with that actors. I think the ones that had a background prior to becoming actors, they're the ones that are not completely dumb because they've lived shit. They've worked real jobs before, and they know what the real world is like. But the
Mhm.
ones that do it since they're kids, then no, absolutely not. They're not gonna have anything of value to offer.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, as we're approaching the 2 hour mark, yeah, I don't know if anyone has any final remarks for today. I think
Well,
the
Let's all go to
biggest
Cuba.
takeaway, yeah,
And
and do
not
a
use the
concert.
electricity.
and not
Yeah.
use electricity. I
Um,
mean, let
but yeah, I think that's like the biggest takeaway from today's episode is like it's just the hypocrisy of the left. And again, I am assuming that the guest against all knows is leftist. Like if it sounds like a duck.
Mm.
But yeah, like, and to anyone listening to us that might disagree with our views, we're not the ones that like we're more than willing to have people um, that oppose our views come onto our show, talk to us, as long as it's in a civilized manner. So we have no issue with that. It's always the other side that doesn't want to even consider having a debate. Um,
the lack of dialogue is strange. It will always be strange. And
Oh.
yeah, that was a very appropriate
But
time
I agree with her.
to
It
cut
is
off.
strange.
Yeah.
And it would have been really nice to have that
I think she was afraid of you,
dialogue,
Jasmine.
to figure out why
Yeah.
they believe what they believe and try to get some sense of it. But I guess not.
Especially because it was a rare case because I haven't seen, at least not with that kind of following,
hear
I haven't
anything.
seen any other Iranians with that mentality of completely disregarding anyone that
Okay. It's
supports
funny. I was talking about
the
lack
royal
of
family.
dialogue and that disappeared.
Yeah, that's what Nick said.
The lack of dialogue is strange. I disappear. It's Israel blocking me.
Yeah, it's Israel blocking you, even though you're for them.
You know,
It's the
you know, like,
Jews.
but you know that this is what Jasmine had said. Why does if Israel is really controlling the world, then why do they let like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and all those people talk? Well, they actually have like an answer for that.
Oh, what do they
which
say?
is they always say that they're like in a crusade against Israel, and they're like actually survivors of the Israeli, like the Mossad and whatever that are trying to silence them, but they are fighting so hard that that's why they still have their voice. This is what they literally say. I am not.
I mean, if
joking.
if the Mossad wants you dead, you're dead.
Yeah.
I can only think of one guy in the history that eluded them, and that was one guy in Brazil who was a Nazi that escaped. Other than him, they've pretty much gotten who they needed to get,
Yeah. So it's not Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson that's gonna, survive anything. So,
It's crazy.
But,
people are weird.
All for money.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
They're the ones, and it's not 7K, girl. Like those people.
It's way
Those
more than
people-
Have you
that.
seen
per
Tucker's house in
video?
Qatar? It's beautiful. I would like to own it.
Those people just per YouTube video, without counting like their Patreon memberships, their private website memberships, all the book club membership that Candace has, like just the videos, just the monetization of the videos. Oh, without counting the sponsors that she has, that she does like in the middle of the videos. Imagine talking about like freaking, like people dying, or like your best friend. My best friend Charlie Kirk has passed away. This is terrible. I'm mourning. I'm so sad. And now, if you really want to improve your health, you please buy this meat. This meat is very organic and delicious.
Oh, it's terrible.
Okay?
She does that?
She did that in the episode.
Right where Charlie Kirk died?
In the episode of like tribute to Charlie Kirk, she had sponsors in the video, mid-video.
What a whack-ass tribute.
Because it's not.
Wasn't she like wanting to date him, but Charlie rejected her?
You heard
I
that
don't
theory?
know, but she is like, I do believe the theory of her husband wanting to basically
Yeah.
take the position at Turning Point, and she is just
Mhm.
extremely bitter that Erica got the position. So now she is going ham on Erica, and she's spreading lies about Erica. And everybody is like trying to like humiliate Erica right now. And I think it's just pretty
Oh yes, it's
despicable.
awful.
I was
It's
losing my
absolutely
mind
awful.
when Tucker was being invited to so many of Turning Point's events, being a lead speaker after Charlie died. I was like, no, the movement's gonna get hijacked. I was so concerned at the time.
No, Erica's perfect. I think she's great. I think she's
I
doing
like
a
her.
great job.
Oh, she's
think she's-
mourning. She's not mourning like a widow should mourn.
Like no one can perform the way that you want them to perform. Like who are you
Like
for her?
people don't like mourning doesn't have a freaking like script. Unlike
You don't know what she does at
It's funny that you
home.
mentioned that because yesterday I watched a podcast called The Boys Cast, which is a comedian named Ryan Long. He's hilarious. And he's talking about all the Erica Kirk conspiracies, saying it all goes down that rabbit hole. COVID, Israel, Charlie Kirk, Erica, which is all nonsense. And you see these people with articles saying Erica Kirk went on a shopping spree 24 hours after her husband died. And then in the article, it says, actually, no, she didn't. We confirm that she didn't, but it leads with that headline. So people just see the headline and they assume that.
Even if she did, like there would be no argument.
No, I know, but the worst part is that it's not true.
Therapy is a thing. Like it's not that it's.
No, I know it's a thing, but the worst part is that it's not true.
She's a mother. She has children that she needs to take care of.
Mechanism, like buying things, like focusing on work too much, like overworking, shopping. It's a coping mechanism for like when people go through a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
Like. So it's ridiculous. And people are like, that's not how you should mourn. When my neighbor lost her husband, she didn't leave the house for a year. Yes, and some people overwork. Some people become workaholics. Some people, she is a woman of faith. She doesn't believe that her husband died. She believes that her husband is in heaven. So just that gives her the comfort that is necessary for her to be like, obviously upset that she will not be able to grow old with him and age with him, but she does believe that there's a heaven and that like she's gonna be there with him. So just that fuels her enough for her to continue. Now I'm not saying like she's like she's an angelic woman. Nobody's an angel.
And there's a difference between if her husband had been killed in a car crash versus being assassinated
in public,
and defending a cause that obviously she also believes in. And so like in that case, it's perfectly natural for her to feel like she has to take on this fight in his name. Yeah. And that's part of the mourning process is like, and people will criticize it regardless, and anything that has any the slightest connection to Israel, it's gonna just as a final thought, like I mentioned this to Alberto yesterday. When I was, for that very brief cup of coffee, on Cold Victorian's Discord server, before realizing that he wasn't going to take action against the neo-Nazis in there was a guy that, because I was there like for the 2.5 days I was in the server, I was there going against those neo-Nazis. And there was one guy in particular that backed me up the entire time. And then we also would chat privately while all this was going on. And he seemed like a very sensible grown-up, saying how, looking back, like his argument was always like how ridiculous it was, like the attack on Israel and Jewish people, because of the PR implications, that the server might be taken down because of that. It was never because what they were saying is wrong, but like he seemed very sensible, backed me up the entire time. And then I finally left the group, and as soon as that happened, he started messaging me on Instagram, and it was nothing but posts and reels against Israel. and sending me messages about like, oh, they do have a point. Oh, like we can at least be aware of like, dude, like what's the point of all this? Like, and I try to be as diplomatic as possible with these people because, screenshots. And, but I was trying to be practical and say, look, even if that's the case, using the analogy that like they open the gates, like it doesn't matter. Like the enemy is inside the gates. The enemy is swinging a sword against our heads. Like we need to focus on that. Like if that was a real scenario, you wouldn't be focusing on, oh, I wonder who opened the gates while this Muslim is swinging a sword at your head. No. But they're incapable of being practical. Oh, because it's good to be aware of who opened the, like, not really, not right now. Even if your conspiracy theory is true, there's no point in doing that right now. Focus on the enemy that's trying to actively kill you on the ground before worrying on who sent them. But it just goes to show, because it was like talking to a completely different person. The shift from backing me up to suddenly on and on continuously sending me this stuff. Yeah, but that's how these people act. Like, and
Very common,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
I met this girl a while back who wanted to start a relationship with me, and then she finds out that I'm actually part Jewish and that I'm converting to Judaism because I don't believe in Christianity any longer. And when she found out that I like Jews and that she turned into a total Nazi. And she's like,
Oh,
I want us to go to church I want us to go to church together. We're going to go to Greek Orthodox church together. I want to pray for you. We're going to pray the rosary. Like, actually, I do believe in Judaism. I'm a Jew and I've got Jewish blood on both my mom's side and my dad's side. I was just raised Christian and I like Israel. She turned into like Candace Owens on me.
oh no. Maybe she watches Candace Owens. That person, she's really harmful.
She does, and she has like a post on her Instagram where she says the true Zionist state, and she's got Zionist literature, anti-Zionist literature with Israel, with the American flag and dollar bills and oil on the cover of the book.
Oh my god!
And she's got like 20 of these books on, like, the little below the where you could see people's stuff on Instagram, that little circle, and it's like the real Palestine written by this guy, written by this, the Palestine this, that. And she like wears these like Christian veil hood, like she's like Virgin Mary and stuff like that, like super Catholic, like the point where, like, you look like a Nazi right now.
Oh my god, brother, you dodged the bullet.
I know. She wanted to get married and everything, and like we're gonna be married for a year, like engaged for a year. Then we consummate for the first night, and it like how God intended, no sin.
But hating others is a
sin.
Hating
others. I know.
Yeah,
especially
like it's just it.
I have one last commentary to make, which is, fun fact, there is a theory that says that actually, like, apparently Candace, it's not a theory, like, but apparently it's a fact. Candace Owens like met her husband and they decided to marry like all in the same week, and it was like some kind of arranged marriage with like their priest. Just saying, it's very.
I saw the video of how she said that she met him and how like the guy DM'd her twice and she wasn't sure at the beginning. She was a little flaky, but the guy insisted, and yeah, it was really stupid.
You know how many properties they have? They have so many homes. They have like over 10 homes in 10 different locations in the world.
He's a millionaire, right? Or a billionaire?
I don't know about billion, but they're very well off. Like, they have multiple properties all over the world.
And it's not enough for her, and she continues to do her. How does she even have like the energy? She really gets. That's the thing. She probably like, because really mean people. I don't want to say evil, but like really mean people. They get their energy. Narcissists. They get off. They get like us when we like making videos and all that stuff. Like it's exhausting. Like you need some time to like recharge. But these people, they fuel themselves on drama. Like, it hypes them and it gives them even more energy. Because, like, she's been doing this every day for, like, how many years? Or, like, every 2 days or whatever. Like, how? And
No,
she's
they're
getting paid a lot per episode. It's, like, it's a lot more than 50K.
Yeah,
I
no,
used to
there are
like her. I
experts
liked her
that
in 2018 was the first time I ever heard of her. She was not that famous. I saw a documentary, I think it was Vice, of black young conservatives and young conservative black women that were like pro MAGA and everything. She was a nobody back then. And she was saying all the right things. She was educated. She was articulate. Like, oh, wow, this girl's pretty good. I didn't even have Instagram back then. But then it's very different from the Candace of like post
Today.
Joe Biden. It's nothing
she's-
like it.
Even her, I just watched her documentary on her investigation on the Black Lives Matter.
thing. That was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Like, this is kind of interesting. I didn't become like a stan, but I was like, like, this is interesting. Like, I like hearing different perspectives and stuff. And I was like, you know what? This kind of good take in this situation. Good take. And then like.
Well, even a broken clock is right twice a day.
That's the thing. It's like, but
Anyway, guys, let's wrap up.
Sorry.
I'm sure, because we are planning on doing I don't know if it's going to be the next one, but very soon we do intend to do an episode about what I call the Christ is King crowd and how harmful they are to the cause. So I'm sure.
Can I invite that girl on the podcast?
Be my guest. And I'm sure we're going to mention Kenneth Owens quite a lot in that one as well. So, but yeah, I'm just once again, thank you for everyone that watched or listened to us ramble for over 2 hours again. And
good, shut up.
Hopefully we are getting better at this. And yeah, see you guys in the next one.
I had a blast.
Bye.
Bye, me too. Bye.